all the way underneath the ocean that connects them. They're never not connected. So the ocean is just in the low spots. So anyway, interesting. But it does say that you all move together into one place. That's kind of interesting if you want to pull for the Pangea thing. And God called the dry land earth, and he gathered together the waters he called seas, and God saw that it was good. Then God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb that yields seed, and the fruit tree that yields fruit. And here's this phrase that he's going to repeat over and over again for those of us that struggle with evolution. According to its kind. Whose seed is in itself. Now, I know a lot of people like to look at the Old Testament, look at the Genesis 1 or 2 or 3, and they say, well, this is poetry. This is imaginary. This is storytelling. You can almost hear the music come on in the background when they start reading this. It's just poetry. It's not literal. It's not factual. It's not actual stuff. And they'll use a phrase like this, whose seed is in itself, and say, well, not all plants have seeds in them. Some plants have the seed on the outside, right? Like, say, a coconut has seed on the outside. So is this poetry that God is talking about here? Can you press Scripture and find truth in it, even when it looks like poetry? I don't know if you could have convinced anybody of that until 1953. 1953, we discovered this thing called DNA. And it's in the nucleus of every cell of your body, and anything living has got a nucleus. And in that nucleus, there's this long strand that's woven together of DNA, and it is super, super fine thread of information, like packed full of information. Like, here's the guy that found one of the co-discoverers of DNA says this. He says, biologists must constantly keep in mind that what they see was not designed, but rather evolved. So what is he saying here? You have got, it can't be. It had to have evolved. It had to evolve. You have to keep on reminding yourself. So what is he really saying? I'm going to kind of dim some of these words so you can see it easier. What they see was designed. And he has to make a statement to say, don't believe it. It had to have evolved. It wasn't designed, but it is designed. You can't find information anywhere in the universe without an information giver. You can't find design without a designer. Design doesn't happen by accident. It happens because of a designer. Information happens because of an information giver. You can't actually have information. Have you ever banged some rocks together and had computer program fall out? Have you ever done that? Wouldn't that be awesome? Like you're chucking dirt clods at the house, and all of a sudden, they fall into this. They start spitting out all this computer code, and then eventually, someone goes over and kicks it. What's this? And a computer appears, and you can get on. It's got DOS and everything. It's really nice. Anyway, yeah, information can only come from an information giver, and usually the information giver is vastly more informed than the information that they give. You know what I'm saying? We have tech all over us. I've got this old school watch. I don't for 1 minute bet that this came out of nowhere. There was a designer who designed this and figured it out, and they were a little more clever than I was. And this thing keeps time. It takes a beating too. I love these Iron Man ones. They just last forever. So the information in computer systems, any kind of tech we have, like touchscreen computers, wireless internet, all this stuff is based off of a code that's got how many letters in it? 2 letters. So the DNA in your body, and in any kind of living organism on this planet, has got how many letters? Do you guys know? 26 would be like our alphabet. That would be awesome. It's not that big. 4. It's got 4 letters: the G, C, T, and A. It's what they've kind of. It's not like it's real letters in there. They have assigned letters to the things that they see. Do you realize how much more complicated a code would be if it's got 4 letters instead of 2? It's not just double the complication. It is infinitely more complex. Infinitely more complex, and it is packed full of information. That DNA that they have, is incredible. But this right here is telling you about a theory, and I want you guys to know this. I want you to get these words, because I'm going to give you guys some concepts over these next sessions, and I want you to write these down. Intelligent design is a phrase you need to understand. When we talk about intelligent design, it's because we see design and intelligence in everything. Everything. It doesn't matter how far in you dig with a microscope, you will find more and more and more mind-blowing information than you could ever imagine. There's a really cool movie, I didn't bring it tonight, but it's called The Mystery of Life. Mystery of Life. It's kind of where ID, intelligent design theory, started. Like a bunch of scientists got together, disgruntled with evolution, disgruntled with the answers they have in science, and what they're seeing is there's a designer that's involved here. There has to be some sort of designer, and they don't know if they don't know if they want to name God or aliens or something, but they just do not like this naturalistic viewpoint of evolution just coming out of nowhere. Everything is designed and it has a purpose, and it's incredibly complex. And they come up with this thing called intelligent design, which is kind of a bigger and all-encompassing thing. They're partly our friends and they're partly not, because they don't all believe in God, but they definitely recognize where science should be leading us all to a designer. So like say you're walking through the woods. This is not a new concept, by the way. It's like a really old concept. You're walking through the woods, and all of a sudden you walk across a tree, and this tree has got this. It's actually growing a bike, right? And soon when the bike is ripe, it'll probably fall off the tree and you can ride it around. It's going to be so cool, right? Does anybody believe that that's going to happen? No. What happened here? Some kid got a birthday present, and this is what always happens when you buy an expensive gift. They just lean it up against a tree and leave it. 50 years later, here it is, stuck in the middle of the tree, up off the ground, losing information every day, right? Just like the second law says. That's really interesting. I think it's really interesting. You would never look at that bike and say that's happening by nature. That's naturally happening on that tree, right? Chaos is just creating this mechanized machine here, and it apparently has a purpose. But so say you're walking through the woods again, and you come across this. Again, do you think this could happen by accident? Why not? It's got too much design to it. Not only does it have design, not only is it a lot like other rocks, it's got specific design. Like these guys look like people. Not only do they look like people, they look like certain people that are famous. No one would ever... Do you realize how far less complicated this is than your DNA? Or than any cell on any kind of creature, any kind of biological thing on this planet? Unbelievable how much information we have. William Paley came up with this concept. He wrote a book called Natural Theology in 1802, and he talked about a watch. Like say you're walking through the woods, you found a watch on the ground, and he starts describing this item that he found on the ground. He's given all these technical terms to it and stuff, and saying he's given all these slow observations. Like he spends a whole chapter, I think, describing this watch. And by the end, or by the middle, you're like, this is a watch that he's describing. He's thinking the whole time, maybe sap must have dripped on this thing, maybe wind elements formed this, and erosion caused this, and these gears, but they not only move, but when you wind it up, they actually seem to be moving in sync, and the more he looks at that, the more he realizes it's actually in sync with the clocks at home, and I mean, he's just like, there's a really slow process sort of thing, like he's just building logical concepts the whole time, and he says, you would never look at a watch and say this happened by accident or chance. And you are far more complex than any watch, even my digital one. You're more complex than any kind of watch. And that's kind of what he says. He writes that book. And this guy, really well-known zoologist, actually. I don't even really know what he's accomplished for science other than write books about evolution. But he's made a lot of money with books bashing God and bashing Christianity. He hates God with a passion. And one day he'll die and he will no longer be an atheist. Natural selection, the blind, unconscious, automatic process which Darwin discovered and which we now know is the explanation for the existence and apparently purposeful form of all life, has no purpose in mind. It has no mind and no mind's eye. It does not plan for the future. It has no vision, no foresight, no sight at all. If it can be said to play the role of a watchmaker in nature, making reference to Paley's book, by the way, it's a blind watchmaker. So, does that sound like science right there? That sounds like this. La, 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 is what it sounds like. And let me keep on going here. So, and the earth brought forth grass, the herb that yields seed according to its kind, and the tree that yields fruit according to its seed in itself, according to its kind. And God saw that it was good, so the evening and the morning were the third day. So what did God make on the third day? Wait, where's that kid? What did he make on the third day? Oh, now he doesn't know. Huh? No, not Adam and Eve. Now you're ahead of me again. The land, that's right. And not just dry land, but he filled the land up with living organisms, right? Plants, seeds, reproductive plants. Like these are living organisms. So I think it's really interesting. The first 3 days, this helps me remember the 6 days of creation. The first day, God creates the first environment, which is like a huge, big, empty space. Like we don't even know how big it is. It's massive. And there's this little drip of water in the middle of it that he's hovering over, making all his plans. And then the second day, he separates the water from the water, makes breathable atmosphere for us. And then he causes dry land to come up on the third day, and he's making 3 environments. And it's really cool because the next 3 days, he's going to fill each one of those environments in the same order. So just kind of keep that in mind. That's kind of cool. So like the 4th day, he's going to fill the first environment. 5th day, the second environment. 6th day, the third environment. So 4th day here, he's going to come and he says, then God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs. Boy, I could talk about that for a long time. There is some fascinating stuff in the stars. And for seasons and for days and for years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light to the earth, and it was so. Then God made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. He also made the stars. I love that. He made the stars also. Do you have any idea how big these stars are and how many of them there are? Like we are still figuring out like little specks of light that we thought were stars. We zoom in on them with the Hubble telescope or something like that, and it blows our mind. They're galaxies of stars. And sometimes sometimes the little bright light that we see in the sky, we zoom it in, we think, oh man, it's a whole bunch of stars. You zoom in some more, it's galaxies and galaxies of billions and billions of stars each. Unbelievable. They zoom in on the darkest part of the sky, and eventually they start seeing colorful galaxies in the distance. We have no idea how big space is. We will never know how big space is. Isaiah tells us we will never know how big space is. That's exciting. Space is amazing. And our sun is way huge compared to us. Like we're just a little speck down there with all the planets and stuff. If you ever want to see like a video that'll just blow your mind and make you super excited about God, I want to challenge you to watch this video right here. I would write this down on your paper somewhere. Louis Giglio, How Great Is Our God? It is super